It's all going down. Tyrone Bowman live. Let's get this program started on tonight. Welcome, everybody, uh, locally, around the country, and from around the world. I'd like to say this as we get started on tonight. I will be talking about several news stories along with my personal analysis and commentary as we go along. There are many things that are happening in the nation and around the world, and I'm trying to do my best on this program to make sure that I cover as much information as possible, but in a responsible and a decent way. All right, having said that, let's get the program started. First story I want to talk about, as reported by CBS News, an article written by Melissa Quinn, Stefan Beckett. The headline reads, Supreme Court seems open to allowing Trump to fire some agency officials without cause. Let's find out what's going on with this story coming out of Washington, D.C. The Supreme Court today heard arguments over the president's authority to remove members of many independent agencies that Congress has sought to insulate from political pressure. With the majority of the justices appearing open to overturning a 90-year-old decision that shields some officials from removal without cause. The case, Trump versus Slaughter, arose from President Trump's attempt to fire a member of the Federal Trade Commission, Rebecca Kelly Slaughter. A 1935 Supreme Court ruling known as Humphrey's Executor upheld limits established by Congress that enabled the president to remove members of commissions like the FTC or the Federal Trade Commission only for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. The Trump administration argues those limits violate the separation of powers. The FTC wields executive power, so the president should have the authority to fire its members for any reason, it says. Slaughter's attorneys argue the removal protections fall within Congress's power to determine the structure of the government and say the administration's position would allow the president to upend many other long-standing independent agencies and commissions that have been established by Congress. During oral arguments at the Supreme Court on Monday, the three liberal justices defended the removal protections and warned that a decision in Mr. Trump's favor could cause chaos across the government. The court's conservative, meanwhile, expressed skepticism with the argument that Congress could limit the president's ability to remove officials from the FTC and other independent agencies, opening the door to a ruling in the administration's favor. Well, you know what? Congress is being either stupid, duped, or naive. They automatically know that once the Supreme Court grants this type of authority to the president and allowing him to basically fire people at will, you can believe people are going to be fired all across the board. That's how it's going to go down, ladies and gentlemen. This Supreme Court knows exactly what it is doing. Why is the Supreme Court seemingly voting in favor of everything that this administration wants? We don't know. But there's something ominous here that's going on, because once this order has been granted by the Supreme Court, you can believe that individuals who are in the crosshairs of this administration, they are going to be fired unceremoniously, without cause, without purpose, under the justification of whatever comes along as it's made up. Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. The court's three liberals were skeptical of Sawyer's argument. So what is the argument? Well, here's the argument, briefly put. Solicitor General D. John Sawyer presented the case for the administration. He urged the justices to overturn the decision in Humphrey's executor, saying it encroaches on the president's removal authority under Article 2 of the Constitution. Quote, Humphrey must be overruled. It has become a decaying husk with bold and particularly dangerous pretensions. It was grievously wrong when it was decided. It continues to generate confusion in the lower courts, and it continues to tempt Congress to erect at the heart of our government a headless fourth branch insulated from political accountability and democratic control. Quote, close quote. See, the Constitution is being eroded every single day. Bit by bit, protections for everybody, they're being stripped away. Oh, that's a fact. Okay, I'm glad you got the notification. Whether people believe it or not, your protections and my protections and our constitutional rights are under attack. And the reason why most folk don't want to believe it, they don't want to accept it, because they would have to admit that they are wrong on so many issues. So rather than admit that they're wrong, they'll just go along to get along. That's what Congress is doing. I've never seen such an inept Congress like we're seeing right now in the history of the United States of America. This Congress is pathetic because it does not favor the populace of the Americans. So justices, pardon me, let me get back to this article for a moment. Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown were skeptical of Sawyer's statement. You're asking us to destroy the structure of government and to take away from Congress its ability to protect its idea that the government is better structured with some agencies that are independent, Sotomayor said. She warned that a decision invalidating removal limits for members of the FTC could also put at risk the independence of other federal entities, such as the U.S. Tax Court. That's going to be the next thing on the chopping block. And broader protections for the civil service. You know, you watch, the argument is going to come up about eliminating taxation for the rich, but not for everyday people. That argument is going to come up next. That rich people should not have to pay taxes for anything. Why? Because they generate the income, they do more for society than anybody else, and everybody else, they're takers instead of inventors. You know how many inventors have contributed to the prosperity of America? You know how many great minds have collectively come together throughout the history of this nation, but they get no credit for their contributions? All the credit was taken by the millionaires and billionaires of that time, and they took the patents, they took the intellectual property, they took their creative mind power, and they said it was their own. That's what large corporations want to do. When you work for a major corporation, be careful with your intellectual property. Don't be so quick to tell them about it, because they'll try to find a way to finesse it away from you under the guise, oh, well, you're working for the company, so anything that you discover or invent or create, technically, it's property of the company. You must be crazy. Something that comes out of my mind, I'm just supposed to give it away freely to a corporation because they say so. It don't go down like that in the language of my people. So Kagan zeroed in on the impacts of a decision overturning Humphrey's executor, raising the prospect that a ruling striking down the precedent could be used to target protections for officials across the government, if that is true. The question is, where does this lead? Where does it take you to, given what your primary rationale is? Employees are wielding executive power over all over the place, and yet we've had civil service laws that give them substantial protection from removal for over a century. Logic has consequences. Once you use a particular kind of argument to justify one thing, you can't turn your back on that kind of argument if it also justifies another thing in the exact way. The attempt is get the door open. If you get the door open, then we can kind of do what we want to do. So that's the headline of that. I'm not going to bore you with all the major particulars. This next story comes from the New Jersey Monitor by Dana D. Filippo. The headline reads, Trump pick for New Jersey's top federal prosecutor resigns after losing a court fight. Alina Habba, President Donald Trump's personal attorney, announced her resignation Monday as New Jersey's top federal prosecutor, a week after a U.S. Third Circuit Court of Appeals panel disqualified her from the job. Haba, though, won't walk away unemployed. She said she will serve as senior advisor to Attorney General Pam Bondi on U.S. attorney matters. Oh, well, we already know she's going to get another job. These people don't go anywhere. It's called political patronage. They go from one job to another. You know, they go from one job to another. That's all they do. They're always going to look out for each other, but when the Democrats do it, they're going to cry foul. They're going to say it's unconstitutional. They're going to say it's illegal. They're going to say it's not right. But under what they're doing, everything that they say and do is supposed to be right. Quote, as a result of the third court's ruling and to protect the stability and integrity of the office, which I love, I have decided to step down from my role as a U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey. She didn't decide to step down from nothing. She was told to step down. They don't make decisions unilaterally on their own. She was told to step down, and she did exactly as she was told. This is nothing but a public relations statement right here. She said in the statement, but do not mistake compliance for surrender. This decision will not weaken the Justice Department and will not weaken me. She also left the door open to returning, saying she's awaiting further review of the court's ruling. Trump named Haba U.S. Attorney for New Jersey in March. This is the end of her. She's not coming back. Blah, blah, yada, yada, yada. She will not be coming back to this position. But I'll read the article anyway. Trump named Haba U.S. Attorney for New Jersey in March, but after the Senate did not approve her nomination within the time frame required by law, Trump administration officials resorted to a string of maneuvers to keep her in the job, even firing her top deputy, Desiree Leah Grace. Federal judges had appointed Grace in July, a task federal law allows them to do if the Senate fails to act. Whenever you hear people make a statement backed up by no evidence, basically, they're forced to do it. Because the press was going to continue to be all over this story if she had not resigned. Welcome back. All right, the next story comes from Politico concerning defense in an article that was written by Leo Shane III and Connor O'Brien and Joe Gold. From Politico, the headline reads, Congress to withhold Pentagon travel funds until it sees boat strike videos. Lawmakers quietly stuck the requirement into their must-pass annual defense policy bill. Congress is using its marquee defense bill to force the Pentagon into turning over videos of strikes against suspected drug smuggling boats off the coast of Latin America. Lawmakers plan to withhold a quarter of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's travel budget until the Pentagon provides them with the video. The demand, quietly tucked into the final draft of the annual defense policy bill, calls for, quote, unedited video of strikes conducted against designated terrorist organizations in the area of responsibility of the United States Southern Command, close quote, to the House and Senate Armed Services Committee. Blah, 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 blah. They'll continue to give the Secretary of Defense the money that he needs to travel with. This is nothing more than another PR stunt to make the public believe that some punitive actions are being taken. No, there are not. Once somebody lies to you, you should never believe anything else they're going to say. Because everything that comes out of their mouth is going to continue to be a lie. No matter how you phrase it, no matter how you put it, no matter how you slice it and dice it. According to the Washington Post, this article written by, I like to give people the credit for the articles that they have written. It's called Acknowledgement. All right, Steve Hendricks, Lindsey Johnson, and Kostianty. This is a Russian name, so I'll spell it out. Kostintyn. Khudov. We'll do it like that. This headline reads, Zelenskyy rules out ceding land to Russia, refusing to bow to Putin or Trump. Coming out of London, Ukraine will not surrender territory. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy declared Monday, rejecting a central Russian demand that President Donald Trump had incorporated into his latest proposal to end the Kremlin's war. Quote, under our laws, under international law, and under moral law, we have no right to give up anything away, Zelenskyy said. After meeting with top European leaders to discuss Trump's plan Monday, this is what we are fighting for, close quote. The unequivocal declaration that Ukraine will not surrender land could mark the collapse of Trump's plan, which critics condemned as fulfilling a wish list of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Zelenskyy speaking to journalists aboard his flight to Brussels following consultations with the leaders of Britain, France, and Germany in London, laid out one of his clearest public statements yet on the emerging U.S.-backed proposal. He said the plan had been stripped of what he called, quote, explicitly anti-Ukrainian provisions, close quote, suggesting that Kyiv was open to a deal. But he stood firm on the issue of land, a view shared by European leaders who have insisted that Putin should not be permitted to redraw international boundaries by force. He said Ukraine will not surrender its territory in the eastern Donbass region, not to hasten peace talks, not to satisfy Washington's push for compromise, and under pressure from Moscow's continuing military onslaught. Well, I mean, he's the president of a sovereign country, and if that's how he feels about it, nobody can make Zelenskyy change his mind. Because once you start compromising in one thing, ultimately, you are going to compromise when it comes to everything. That's why people have to be very, very careful about what it takes to reach a compromise. Because in reaching a compromise, oftentimes you are conceding things not in your best interests. This one is coming from the Hollywood Reporter. Y'all might like this article by Kevin Dulac. I don't know if you all have received or looked at Netflix's documentary or docu-series concerning Diddy. According to the Hollywood Reporter, an article written by Kevin Dulac, Diddy's mom joins his lawyers, Biggie Smalls' estate to blast lies in docu-series. Janice Combs, who raised her son as a single mother, denies the claims that she and her son were ever abusive, as is claimed in the hit series. Well, you know what? I have to somewhat dispute what the mother's trying to say because she's a mother, when we clearly saw the video of him beating the hell out of Victoria Cassie unrelentlessly. And I saw the docu-series. I saw the entire video in the docu-series. It was ugly. It was brutal. And it was hideous. Paying her $20 million is no justification for what he did. So the mother of fallen rap mogul Sean Diddy Combs is joining a chorus of individuals pointing a finger at Netflix, as she's publicly come out against the notion that she was violent or an abusive parent with her son, or that he assaulted her after statements that she recalls inaccuracies made their way into the new Netflix docuseries Sean Combs, The Reckoning. Well, let me tell you something about black parents. I'm black. I was raised in a black family, and I can look in this camera and I can tell you straight up, our parents would beat the living hell out of us for any and everything under the sun. If they couldn't get you physically, they pick up something, throw it at you. They chase you around with a brick, a stick, a knife, a frying pan, anything they could get their hands on. So I don't believe the malarkey about she didn't chastise her son. Yes, she did. People can lie through their lawyers, or they can lie on their own. But you're not going to make Black America Black people in America believe that we have never dealt with the rage and anger of Black parents. They didn't call it abuse back then. I said they didn't call it abuse back then. It was just being a good parent. So the 85-year-old mother of the imprisoned rap mogul was a notable figure at his lengthy trial on sex trafficking and RICO charges over the summer, which ended in a split verdict that saw him found guilty of violating the Mann Act, basically prostitution, but not guilty of the more serious federal charges. Janice Combs attended every day of the 8-week trial in Lower Manhattan, commanding the media's attention as she entered and exited the federal court building in Manhattan wearing colorful outfits and a rotating set of wigs. I have said this, and I'm going to say it again. The district court, the attorney generals, and the prosecutors, they mucked up the case. How did they muck it up? Because they overcharged him. And the things that they should have charged him for wasn't even a part of it. They never charged him for domestic violence. That should have been part of the charges. They took all these other charges thinking that if we overcharge him, we're most assured to get a conviction. And if you look at the docuseries, the jurors in the docuseries will tell you why they reached the verdict the way that they did. Because they did not believe the prosecution's story. They didn't really believe Cassie Ventura's story either. Check it out for yourself. When prosecutors, in their zeal to want to get a conviction, they will overcharge anybody all the time. That's what they do when police arrest people. They ring up a whole bunch of a litany of charges. And then they give it to the district attorney's office and they up the ante because they don't want the person to get out on bail. So they overcharge the individuals. Quote, now Janice Combs, who raised her son and daughter alone in poverty after her husband was murdered in Harlem, is coming to the media to clear up what is reported in the Netflix series by a childhood friend who recalls Combs being beaten by her. The elder Combs is also asking Netflix to retract this from the series and refuse to claim that she was hit in the face by her son during a tense and tragic moment when he was launching his career in hip-hop. I am writing this statement to correct some of the lies presented in the Netflix show, Sean Combs, The Reckoning, released on December 2nd, 2025. These inaccuracies regarding my son Sean's upbringing and family life are intentionally done to mislead viewers and further harm our reputation. In the documentary, I'm portrayed as an abusive parent. This is untrue. This sounds more like something that a public relations firm wrote on her behalf. This woman doesn't talk like this. I've heard her talk. She does not talk like this. This sounds more like it was written by an attorney or the paralegals or a public relations firm and gave her the statements to read this. They do it every day in Hollywood. People get in trouble. Things happen. What do? They get the public relations person. How are we going to spin this for our best interests? How are we going to stop my career from being ruined? You know, it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. The prosecutors messed up the case. They ruined the case. They destroyed the case. All the witnesses that they had, of course, they didn't show them on TV. They destroyed the case by having people over testify. Sometimes less is more if you want to get a sure enough conviction. I'm a law student, but I've got common sense. I've got street sense, street cred, street knowledge, hood wisdom, as well as mind sense. Common sense should tell you, don't overcharge. Charge enough to get a conviction, an assured conviction. And when you put a billionaire on trial, make sure you have enough money to go up against the billionaire and his executive professional attorneys, because you're not going to win. Bottom line, why do you think most politicians get away with so much corruption? Because they have powerful law firms that are backing them up. They're paid to keep them out of prison. Why do you think everyday people get sent to prison? Because they don't have the money for the most powerful attorneys in the country. They get public pretenders, people who come right out of law school, terrified of the courts. They get a caseload of 150 files and told by the district attorney, plea bargain, plea bargain, plea bargain. You better listen, you better know what you're talking about if you want to be a lawyer for real and know how to argue. The statement made by Mr. Tim Patterson about Sean's life regarding my relationship with my son is not truthful and salacious. You know darn well that woman did not use the word salacious to promote the series. To the contrary, I loved and nurtured Sean. My memories of Sean growing up are one of a respectful and diligent child and teenager. All right, blah, 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 blah. I know she's lying. Seriously. I don't even have to read the rest of the article because it's going to go on and on and on and on. If you really want to read it for yourself, go to the Hollywood Reporter and check out the entire article. All right. According to ABC News, a California teacher who was suspended for Charlie Kirk comments is now suing the school district. Rachel McKagan alleges the Las Virgenes Unified School District violated her freedom of speech when it suspended her for a Facebook post she later deleted. And this article for NBC News was written by Corky Samisko, a California teacher who was suspended for posting on her private Facebook page that Charlie Kirk was a, quote, oh, wow. That's what she said. No wonder they fired her. This is what she said. And this is the statement she got fired for. She called the late Charlie Kirk, quote, a propaganda spewing racist misogynist, end quote. I'm not going to say the other part of it. That's why you got fired, you jackass. If all this stuff that I'm reading here is true, they should have fired you. Because I'm not going to even read the rest of it because it's horrible and it was totally insensitive for her to say that the way she said it. It made no sense. She deserved to be fired. It wasn't about freedom of speech being violated. It was about you being insensitive and speaking recklessly out of your mouth during such a tragic moment in the history of this country. So she's suing the Los Angeles Area School District and Board of Trustees with violating free speech rights. Your rights weren't violated because you put it on Facebook for the whole world to see. So how were your free speech rights violated? Just because we have freedom of speech in this nation, it doesn't give us the right to recklessly say anything and everything that we want anytime we feel like saying it without there not being consequences for the actions of people. That's the problem in America right now. People just saying any and everything all day, all night, anytime, anywhere, any place about anyone and anybody. From Facebook to X to Reddit to TikTok, Instagram, or any other social media posts. People say a lot of things, whether people believe it or not. Now, what she said at that time, they fired her straight up. So Rachel McKagan, who has taught English in the Las Virgenes Unified School District for over a decade, alleges in the lawsuit that school officials endangered her by massively amplifying a post that she herself deleted at the urging of a school principal 4 hours after it was posted. Well, if you thought it was so wonderful, then why did you delete it? If you were standing on the principles of the constitutionality of your First Amendment rights, why did you delete the post? Because you knew you were wrong. As I said before, I can disagree with someone politically and still have respect for them as a human being. I don't have to agree with everything everybody says politically. That's what's wrong in America today, the divisiveness when it comes to politics. One side wants you to believe everything that they say without them being criticized, and they don't want the other side to say nothing at all. That's why Mandami won in New York City, because the voters in New York City saw the erroneous hypocrisy and the politicalization and weaponization of what's going on in the country now. They said, you know what? We're tired of it. We're going to vote our conscience. We're going to put somebody in office that we want to put in office. We don't care about the party. We don't care what the poll says. We don't care what people say. We're going to do it because this is what we want to do. So the whole thing in America is agree with what we say, or then you're against us. That's why most folk can't stand MAGA, because MAGA wants you all to believe any and everything that they say. And some of you all think I'm going to respond to your insidious comments. It ain't going to happen. I'm on point. Bottom line, you have the right to believe what you want to believe. You have the right to say what you want to say. So do I. Never forget that. So because if you say something stupid and reckless out of your mouth, I'm going to respond to it. See, I'm not violating your rights. You can't violate mine. If you want me to respect your right to say what you want to say, you have to respect the right that I have the same freedom of speech to say what I desire to say at the same time. But not in American politics today. Ideologically, they want to tell you how to think, speak, walk, talk, and act. This is not a communistic nation. So while the statement did not name McKagan, this is the stupid part of her, of this lady. McKagan said in the lawsuit that she was warned by a district official that there would be a media frenzy before the district posted a statement condemning her remarks as vile and completely inappropriate, adding that the district was moving to fire her. She knew that before she published them. She knew this because she was warned. They told her that it was vile and completely inappropriate at that time. While the statement did not name Kagan, she said that she was unmasked online almost immediately and subjected to threats, according to the lawsuit filed Friday in the United States Central District of California. Well, she put herself in that situation. No one to blame but herself. So people have to be very, very careful. Here's some other stories I want to hit real quick. All right, this one is from the Mirror by Avery Nelson. The headline reads, SNAP members hit back at a new bill wanting to ban use on fast foods. Well, let's find out what this article is about. Food stamps are typically used to purchase nutritious foods from the grocery store. However, 9 states allow recipients to use their benefits at fast food restaurants. Never heard of that until right now. In Philadelphia, you ain't taking your SNAP card to no fast food restaurant and get anything. Iowa Republican Senator Joni Ernst wants to change the special restaurant program for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, citing abuse in the program. Last month, Ernst introduced the bill known as the stopping chains from using SNAP EBT to make entrees. The act in order to cut waste and abuse in spending in the SNAP restaurant meals program. All right, here's something. Why don't you make a bill to stop the wasting of giving the members of the Senate and Congress almost $100 a day for lunch? That's waste. That's abuse. That's a fraud. Why do the taxpayers have to pay their lunch bill? Why do they get almost $100 a day for lunch? And you all want to come after people who get a SNAP welfare card and they go to the store to get some food, and you want to stop them because you call it waste and fraud. Some things just don't make any kind of sense, ladies and gentlemen. According to earnings between June 2023 and May 2025, 524 million in SNAP benefits were almost exclusively on fast food in the following states. Okay, California, Arizona, New York, Michigan, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Illinois, Virginia, and Maryland. Well, what about the southern states? You're going to tell me that the southerners down there don't take their SNAP benefit EBT card and go to the fast food restaurants? Are you kidding? They got Cracker Barrel, Piggly Wiggly, and all those stores down there. I've been down the South. So you're trying to make us believe there's only the Democratic-led states? Seriously? That's why y'all going to lose big in the midterm elections, because people are tired of y'all. They're tired of these lazy, do-nothing, obstructionist MAGA Republicans just lying every second, moment, and hour of the day. Obstructionist to the core. The N in SNAP stands for nutrition, not nuggets with a side of fries, said Ernest in the pre-release. I wish I was McRibbing you, but $250 million per year at the drive-through is no joke and a serious waste of tax dollars. What about the waste of tax dollars that goes into the political coffers of the MAGA Republican political candidates? What about that abuse? Oh, but they don't want to talk about that. What about the fact that during the government shutdown, Congress still got paid? Members of Congress still got paid for doing nothing. The 9 states listed in her bill are the only states that offer the restaurant meals program, and it allows people aged 60 and older, disabled individuals, the homeless, or a spouse or a SNAP client who is eligible for the RMP to spend their benefits on hot meals. So what the hell are you complaining about? Nothing. If it allows for homeless people, seniors who are age 60 and older, and disabled individuals to use the SNAP card in that vein, where is the waste and the fraud? You can't have it both ways. Where's the waste and the fraud? This is getting all too real. All right, this is about ICE. Let's give you some ICE news update. According to NBC News, an article written by Laura Strickler and Julia Ainsley, ICE has arrested nearly 75,000 people with no criminal records, according to data. The figures don't include arrests made by Border Patrol, which has launched aggressive immigration operations in several cities in recent months. More than a third of the roughly 220,000 people arrested by ICE officers in the first 9 months of the Trump administration had no criminal history, according to new data. The data, which includes ICE arrests from January 20 to October 15, shows that nearly 75,000 people with no criminal records have been swept up in immigration operations that the president and his top officials have said would target murderers, rapists, and gang members. Quote, it contradicts what the administration has been saying about people who are convicted criminals and that they are going after the worst of the worst, said Aria Ruiz Soto, senior policy analyst at the Migration Policy Institute. The figures provide the most revealing look To date, into the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, they were shared by the University of California, Berkeley Deportation Data Project, which obtained them through a lawsuit brought against Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The data is compiled by an internal ICE office that handles arrest, detention, and deportation data. The administration stopped regularly posting detailed information on ICE arrests in January. Why? Gear up for the midterm 2026 elections, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, it's going to be a dandy one. For arrestees with criminal histories, the data doesn't distinguish between those with a history of minor offenses and those who have committed more serious crimes, like rape and murder, whom the administration has said it is targeting. And the figures do not include arrests made by Border Patrol, which has launched aggressive immigration operations in several cities, including Chicago, Los Angeles, and Charlotte, North Carolina. Border Patrol sweeps are currently underway in New Orleans. So what about the Republican cities? What about the Republican cities? Well, this is all this for this segment, ladies and gentlemen, right here. I will probably have another. You know what? Wait a minute, hold up. This one is from TMC. Let me get this one in. Busta Rhymes went from fun-loving rapper to the fire-breathing dungeon dragon when a content creator called him Tracy Morgan to get a rise out of him and succeeded with 3 exclamation points. TMZ hip-hop obtained video from last night in Miami during the Art Basel festivities when Busta thought he was entering a friendly photo op only to be, quote, confused for the 30 Rock star. I don't know how he could be confused. Busta did not find the joke amusing, and you can see his attitude shift from calm to crabby in a matter of seconds as the kid's fellow social media creator, funny salesman, looked on helplessly in the background. Well, let me just say this concerning public celebrities. Sometimes content creator, the paparazzi, and all these people think that they can say and do anything that they want to do when it comes to public celebrities, and that's where you cross the line at. How would you like to have a camera and lights up in your face everywhere you go, 24 hours a day? How would you like it if somebody was peeping in your bushes where you live, prying on the most private, intimate parts of your life, and then go selling it to the tabloid journalists to make money, or posting them online on their YouTube account or X account or whatever account they have just to make money? Celebrities deal with a lot, whether folks think so or not. Fame is not everything that is cracked up to be. All right, y'all, I'm out of here for now. Never surrender. All right, everybody, I saw all your comments. Thank you for coming on the program. Thank you for your comments. Good, pro, for, or against. Never surrender. Never quit.